The Asian community did it right. The Hispanic community is doing a great job. The Indian community is doing a great job. They're sticking together. Their
Yeah.
VC firms are made up of Indian, Asian, and white.
Yeah. There's a
Hispanics ain't hardly there, and black folks ain't there. If they are, they're the cleanup crew. Welcome to a Random Podcast, where we challenge the status quo and we empower people like you to think differently. Today is different. It is different. You guys probably got tired of hearing my big mouth, so I got my boy here. I call him P. Bentley. Patrick Bentley, yeah, and he feel like he's just as valuable as a Bentley. So yes, that name just fits him perfect. But I wanted him to chime in today. He's done a lot of different businesses, and he's done some in the entertainment world. So I want to ask him, questions about raising money, because that is the number one question from people going into business or in business. How do I get to the bag? How do I get the money to be able to make my business go? So without further ado, hey, P, go ahead and introduce yourself, give a little bit of background, and then we'll dive in and give them the meat and gravy.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for having me today, John. I know you and I, we go back many years. We haven't spoken in a while, so this is great in more than one way. But
Right.
as you mentioned, I'm Patrick. Yeah, I still go by P. Bentley. For those who know, my background actually started in high school. A guy from a small country town, Macon, Georgia. Always been intrigued in the music industry. So early during my high school days, I was able to get 2 groups signed to a major label when I was just in my 11th grade. Then I got into technology. I think that's going to be a fun story to tell you how I got into technology. What made me look at technology and start thinking differently for myself. And then I have a background in real estate as well. It's not your traditional background in real estate. And currently I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. Speaking of tech, I'm a proud investor in Isaac Hayes the third.
Yeah, fan
Startup,
base, baby.
fan base.
Nope. Yes.
So first round, soon as he put it out there, and I invest. Me and my wife investing into that as well, and I also invested into television and film projects. So I have a diverse palette as far as what my portfolio looks like these days. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm into.
One thing I want to ask, people say, how do I get the money? As we were saying, I know in the entertainment business it's a little bit different, right? But I bet you this part's not different. I always answer that question with, you have to have a product or a service that's worth getting the money. So, the days of, I'm going to give you an ideal and it's on a napkin or it's abstract and you're going to give me money, long gone. You actually have to produce a product or a service and be able to show some viability to it to get the money. Am I right?
You're absolutely right, 100%. Let's just talk about black startups, about the venture funding. So black founder startups in the United States only receive $705 million in ventures funding. So if you look at that, that's like a 71% decrease from 2022. This is the first time since, I think, 2016 that figure has fallen below $1 billion. So then you have another stage where you have like the funding stage disparity that we also face as well in black startup. So all funding stages for black founding startup, in 2023 we also saw a decline with it where it comes with angel investors and seed round investors. That dropped 51%, and then you have like your early and your late stage round of funding. If you're lucky, we seen that plummet about 73 to 74%. So when you look at it, John, overall venture funding, black founders startup received less than 0.5% of $140.4 billion in venture funding allocated for just startups alone. So we're not even getting, a piece of that pie. So when you look at the disparity, black founded startup raised a fraction of the capital compared to non-black counterparts. And it's just systemic barriers that we continue to encounter when we access funding. And this is just with tech. Everything else is even worse.
I second that. The only reason why I second that, because I've been doing some studies lately, and boy, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
We're 0.05%. Women are at 2.2. Latino community, Hispanic community, 2.2.
Yeah.
Okay, Asian community, 7%. and we're less than 1%, brother.
Yeah.
That's
0.5.
insane.
Yeah. And a lot of people may say, well, you know what? We're not into tech, but that's bull because if you study and look at history, black people invented a lot of things that we're using today. The more you know, the more you educate yourself, because people now will have you thinking that we don't belong in that industry.
But let me ask you a question. Why do you think? Okay, because I know it's a trick question because
Yeah.
I know the answer, but I'm interested in the people getting it from your perspective. Why do you think black entrepreneurs are not receiving the funding? And once you hit on yours, I'm going to give you my take, and hopefully I don't get canceled. But go ahead.
Well, they okay for us to entertain, but you got to understand they control that as well. We make them a lot of money. As long as we make a lot of money, we okay. But we're just now getting to the boss momentum, meaning that understanding our value, understanding ownership, understand if you own something, you can pass it down to your kid. This is a long game. We're just not figuring it out. So now, with this new generation coming out, they're seeing it. They have everything access right at their fingertip. But that's a blessing and a curse as well, which we can get into a little later. They don't want us to have a seat at the table when it comes to something like that. Right. That's what I see. Okay. Because if you look at it, that's across the board. You look at the fashion industry, you look at the wine and spirit industry. You look at
bro, you've been peeking at my dude. I got a video in the can. You done stole my video in the can, bro. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm gonna promise y'all, man. I ain't tell him nothing, and he done stole my video in a can. I have it in the can talking about this exact thing. Oh my God, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a good example. Back in the day, when we was growing up as kids, when you have these athletes like Michael Jordan or a lot of these guys, even black celebrities, we was good like just promoting the product because they know the value. So they use our face and our likeness to be able to bridge their to introduce their brand to our culture. Right. So as years passed by, when we started understanding our value, we said, "Hey, we don't want to be props no more. We want a piece of the pie." And we seen some growth in that, but it's only a select few. It's still a few percentage of that. Right. But when we try to change that and own something our own, like coming up with something as far as technology, I mean, it's rough. I have a story to tell you about this. So this is something you can just go and check with Eyes of Hate. So I won't mention the name. You can go dig for it yourself. So Eyes of Hate the Third, he started the fan base. When he was raising capital, there's this one black guy here in Atlanta. If I say his name, everybody would know it. But at this point, I choose not to say his name at this point. Right. But I looked up to this guy because I do a lot of research. And I was like, hey, this guy, I see, he's real cool. As far as, well, I'll take that back. I won't say he's real cool. I just say I was like really
you thought he was real
happy
cool.
To see a black person on his level moving and shaking in the technology world, and he just so happened to be here in Atlanta. So I had went to a event with former Mayor Kassid Reed and Killer Mike. So I went to the event and I was there with them, supporting Killer Mike. And this guy came in and he was standing like right here beside me, and he was like this looking up front. So this is my first time seeing this guy in face to face. I'm not, so for me, I've been around celebrities all my life. I don't consider him a celebrity, but I looked at him like, oh, this is the guy I've been reading about, for a long time. So that night, as the night went by, Killer Mike was real nice. I talked to Killer Mike, kept up with him. Shout out to Courtney Seal Bear. He was there. Kassid Reed, we talked, we took pictures. We hung out for a while. It was a really good event. But this guy, he was like a celebrity. He didn't want to talk unless you was like a celebrity. He was like one of those type persons. Didn't know who he was talking to, because I'm like, dude, I don't you don't even know who I am, and that's fine. I done been around all the who's, partied with them, been at their house and all this stuff. And
I can confirm that he introduced me to some people. I was like, I'm like, oh my God. So like, no, not like just introduce you, but like, yo, then I came cool with him. So yeah. So he's for real, 100%. Go ahead.
So it's like, so at the end of the day, I just was like, hey, just admiring another black guy in the tech in the tech world, because we don't see that. We don't see that. And I'm gonna tell you a really good story about this as well, how I got into tech. So he act like he was kind of stuck up a little bit, arrogant a little bit. So speed up, a year later, I was on a Zoom meeting, like a call, well, you could session with Isaac Hayes and a few other people. And Isaac Hayes was talking about the exact same thing you're talking about right now. It was very hard for him to raise money. So it was this one black guy who was in Atlanta that, like, I mean, he went to Georgia Tech. I'm throwing out clues. I'll throw out more later. And I was surprised because Isaac Hayes was like, they were called the venture capitalist people, or the people who was actually wanted to invest in fan base when he was raising money, was like, okay, I'm going to call this guy to ask him about Isaac Hayes. Because you already know people have to call people to say, hey, you heard about this Isaac Hayes guy? Like, what do you think about him?
Somebody got to endorse you, approve you.
So what happened was, this didn't come from me. This is what Isaac Hayes said. He said he found out this guy blocked everybody who wanted to put money in his pocket, because he wanted to be the number one guy in tech, the number one black guy in Atlanta. He wanted to keep that instead of spreading. So a lot of times we are our worst enemies, because we can actually raise money and help one another, but we choose not to do that. So I just wanted to point it out, like,
You're right. So this is what I'm going to tell you. Okay. So this is what I already recorded something about this, so I guess I won't release it since I'm going to say it here. The black wealth, the black power structure is complicit in the defaulting of our self-sufficiency with capital. Right. What do I mean by that? Like you just said, we can get a liquor line, we can get a clothing line, we can get a music label. We could do all a little fun stuff.
Nasty stuff, yep.
But when it comes time for us to have serious tech, to do some serious business, the black power structure that's there doesn't invest in us. What they do instead, and everyone knows who these people are, I don't even got to name them, they invest their money into firms that don't look like us. And those firms will invest money, and yes, those individuals will make a lot of money from them firms, but they don't require them firms to invest in us. Right. Not one wealthy black individual should invest any money in a firm without first requiring them to give a percentage to minority businesses. Right. We got young boys and girls graduating from schools every day with great ideals, and they can't find the funding because our own people put their money with other communities. And I'm not discounting other communities. The Asian community did it right. The Hispanic community is doing a great job. The Indian community is doing a great job. They're sticking together. Their VC firms are made up of Indian, Asian, and white. Yeah. Hispanics ain't hardly there, and black folks ain't there. If they are, they're the cleanup crew. Okay? So so part of the problem is these people with these VC firms, they call people like, oh, dude, because they're not familiar with us. They can't relate to us. And I'm not, look, it's not totally their fault, because you tend to run in tribes. You tend to deal with people you're used to and comfortable with, and that you're familiar with, people who like you, and you kind of feel comfortable investing in them. That's why they call somebody to get an endorsement, say, hey, we know you, man. What you say about your boy? Check off on him. Right. And then you get haters like him who are blocking stuff. Yeah, so and that's the problem. We're the problem. We're the problem when it comes to that.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, that would be a great pipeline, because you're right. I mean, we're not present, and we don't have a footprint in that industry like we should. And hopefully in the near future, this next generation be able to carve out a healthy portion of that.
Let me ask you this question here, since you said entertainment, right? So a lot of people I talk to, I deal with them with traditional businesses, right? Traditional ways to try and go get VC money or whatever. How's it different raising money in the entertainment industry than maybe a tradition?